I'm Rebecca and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to do an oil change on a 2019 Volkswagen Jetta. A little bit about my car. I just picked this up at the end of February 2020. It's a Volkswagen Jetta SEL and it was a leftover from the 2019 model year. Recently, the dash started popping up with a notification saying that it's due for an oil change, despite only having 2,600 miles. I guess that's what happens when you buy a leftover. Because I have access to the Quickjack, I'm going to use that today to make my oil change a little bit easier. If you're interested in a review on the Quickjacks, there's going to be a link in the description for the video. So next, I'm going to push the Quickjack into place, making sure that my jacking points line up with these blocks. That should be good there. Now that I've done this side, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on the passenger side. So the next thing I'm going to do is open the hood, and when I open it, I'm going to be careful to make sure that my hood doesn't hit the ceiling because now the car is jacked. Okay. So now that the car is jacked up, this is a little hard for me to get the hood all the way up because it is so tall, so I'm going to have a little help. You got it?
Yep.
I'm going to take the oil cap off, that way when I go to drain the oil, it drains faster. If I can get it. To get access to everything I need to do this oil change, I'm going to have to remove this panel that covers the front half of the car. There's 8 of these T20 Torx screws and 3 of these T45 Torx screws holding this panel in place. There's 4 of these T20 Torx screws on the passenger side, 3 on the driver's side, and 1 in the center. It's hard because after a while it just kind of flops. It's not my good hand to do this. So these 3 T45 Torx screws are definitely tighter than the T20s, so I'm going to go ahead and use a ratchet to loosen these. As I hit my car. Yeah, that's definitely easier. So as I remove this last screw, I'm going to be mindful that my panel is going to start to come down, so I'm going to make sure I hold this up so it doesn't fall down on top of me. Because I can't really. There we go. Ew, it's going all over me. Yep. If you have a creeper, it's really easy to get the pan out of the car if you just lay it on you and roll right out. I took the car on a short 10-minute drive to warm up the oil. That way it's easier to drain. I'm going to use a 3/4 inch socket to remove the drain plug, and I have a pan ready to catch all the oil. I don't want to. That's easy. unlike some of the other cars I've done oil changes on, the oil comes out of this one very fast, so it can get pretty messy. To make our next oil change a little bit easier, instead of putting the original drain plug back in, I'm going to replace it with this Valvomax oil drain. It's an M14 1.5 thread size specifically for this engine. So this is pretty neat. It comes with the crush washer, and this is the part that screws into the oil pan. When you unscrew this, there's a little valve, and this hose connects into here so you can drain your oil into whatever container you want, and this helps cut down on mess. So now I'm going to install the Valvomax drain plug. I've already put the crush washer on, and I'm going to hand tighten it down. I'm going to use a 15/16 socket. Note that this is larger because we have to fit it over this valve. And then I'm going to tighten it down to 30 Newton meters or 22 pounds-feet. To put this on, I had to remove the O-ring and the valve cap. So now I'm going to put that back on. So now the next step is to replace the oil filter. I don't have anything to push against. I can't get it.
I just broke this.
Well, then I guess we're using the other thingy-majig. That is like all my strength.
There it goes. There it goes.
So to remove the filter, I had to enlist some help. We actually broke a strap wrench trying to get this loose. So this was really torqued down. I think it was a little excessive. As you can see, it actually, we had to dent the entire filter to get it loose, but now it is loose.
We needed to use a different wrench actually.
Yeah.
So we needed to use this wrench, which is totally different because we did break the strap wrench in the process.
I went ahead and ordered my oil and my filter from FCP Euro. I had to order about 5 quarts of oil because the car does take about 4.5. So I just finished removing the old oil filter, so now I'm going to lube up the O-ring on this new one. Nice and clean. So I already made sure that when I removed this old oil filter that this O-ring didn't stick to the engine. So now I'm going to clean up the area and install the new oil filter. The next step is to fill the engine with oil. However, this design is definitely atypical and it's going to make it a little tricky. My plan here is to just kind of hold a funnel kind of close by because I don't have the steadiest hands and I know if I just try to freehand this, it's going to spill everywhere. already finished adding in my 4 quarts, so now I have to add this much more oil. While checking the owner's manual, I noticed that Volkswagen said that it's normal for the 2019 Jetta to consume up to 1 quart per 1,200 miles, and that newer cars can see even higher consumption for the first 3,000 miles. I measured all the oil I had taken out of the car, not considering the stuff that I spilled on the floor, but I got about 4 quarts, so it really didn't burn that much oil. Because I plan on having this car long term, I decided to go ahead and do an oil analysis through Blackstone. This way I can detect any engine problems early on by having a baseline for when my car is new. Once I get the analysis back, I'll be sure to include a link to the PDF in the description below. At this point, the oil change is complete. The only thing left to do is put this panel back on the underside of the car. When placing this panel back on the underneath of the car, there's a few things I have to be mindful of. One, making sure that these tabs are alternating. That way they can slide into place. And to do that, I have to really have this flush up against the top. That way everything slips in. I went ahead and started the T45 screws towards the back of this panel. That way I don't have to try to mess with holding it up and screwing everything back into place. However, I didn't tighten them all the way down. That way I can make sure I had enough wiggle room to line up these holes. I can just hand start these. That's probably... In order to reset the engine oil life, I need to first make sure my car is on. I'm going to select the driving data menu, and then I'm going to go to range. I'm going to hold OK for about 4 to 5 seconds, and a service menu pops up. The second option is reset oil change service. I'm going to hit OK, hit OK again. And now it says the service interval was reset. On the main screen of my car, I can see that the oil change service is now updated and my oil is good for another 10,000 miles or a year. If you like this video, please be sure to give us a big thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching and happy motoring.